Hello everyone, my name is Dave Partner and welcome to this tutorial on Ionic. In this tutorial, I'll teach you how to retrieve data from Firebase. There are up to 5 ways to retrieve data from Firebase, but I will show you only one in this particular video. In subsequent videos, we'll see others. Now we have, if you click on Profile, I have written a code that retrieves the picture from Firebase. Picture of this guy, this is me, and the name of this guy from Firebase. Okay, and then manually typed all this. So this is just a demonstration of how you can retrieve data from Firebase. I'll walk you through the code. I wrote the code before this video so as to save time. Now the first place we're going to start is in our user service. Remember where the user service is? You go to your app providers and then you get to user service. Your project folder, app providers, and user service. That's the file we are working on right now. Now in user service, outside our constructor, I created a method called view user. You could call yours anything, but I called mine view user. The method accepts a variable, one parameter, and I named the parameter user ID. You could name yours anything, and it's of the type any. It could be anything, string, integer, anything. And then we have a variable here. I declared a variable and said this user profile the child user ID. So if you click on this and if we come to constructor, you see where we first declared this variable just above the constructor. We declared it a variable. You could call yours anything. I just called my user profile and we assigned a variable to it. Then inside the constructor we have user profile, and this user profile helps us access this variable. And then we assigned it to a Firebase database reference, and this reference is making reference to a Firebase database node or table. This is a node we called users. Remember when we were registering the user? So if we go to our Firebase database and click on database, we'll see users. Then we'll see these the node users. So far we have 4 registered users. Dummy users are registered. Okay, we have 4 registered users, and that's what we're saying here. So we're making reference to that table. In subsequent tutorials we'll have other tables or other nodes that we'll call post, messages, and so on and so forth. Alright, so we make reference to the Firebase node in our constructor. So we now have this guy now contains this Firebase reference. So we come to our function. This function could be anywhere. It could be anywhere under the constructor. Okay. So here, this function accepts one parameter and makes reference to the user's node in a Firebase reference. Then inside the user's node, we're just saying that you should find the child with the user ID. So when we call this function, we want to pass in a user ID, someone's user ID, and we're just saying that you should go to that person's user ID under the users table. So if we go back here, let's just say that all these things are people's user IDs. So if we go back here and we say, and we'll pass in this user ID, what it will do is we just go to users and access this user's ID. We're trying to gain access to the user's details, which are email, name, photo, username. Okay. So right here we've done that. With child means let me just show you this guy. This ID is a child of users, email is a child of this user ID. Then if we come here, we say that first is a child of name, and name is a child of this ID, and this ID is a child of this. Okay, so we're saying go to this child and call this. Okay. Then of course every function, every method in your user service have to return a value. So we're returning this value, and I'll show you this once. There are up to 5 ways to retrieve data from Firebase database, and one of them is value, and another one is on child added, another one is on child removed. So I'll show you where to read these things up so you don't mess up things. Okay, so we go to a Firebase, go to your Firebase documentation, and then by the right side corner, left side corner, you scroll to Realtime database and click on it, and you click on Retrieve Data. Now, Firebase has done a good job at explaining what it is and ways to retrieve data. Okay, so you have 5 ways to retrieve data. One of them is value. Value reads and listens to changes in the entire content path. So this is a content path. Users, user ID, and then this guy is a content path. This one content path. This guy users with this line. This guy is another content path. Okay, so if you use on value, it's listening to changes. So it's like the overall guy in this picture. It essentially does what every other guy does. Okay, so which means if I edit the name Dave, it will trigger a callback function on value. So value will automatically know that yes, there is a change in name. So if I change the profile photo, for instance, user edits profile, if we are using on value to retrieve the data from the user's profile, automatically on value will know that yes, something has changed. Alright, the next other changes you could have is on child added. For instance, so what if you just wanted to monitor only when a new value is added to database? Maybe assuming we are monitoring we are listening to the whole of this, you understand, and another user registers. What happens? Which means if we have a page we are displaying list of registered users, when a new user registers, what happens? We can immediately add the user registration, user's details there. And another example is, for instance, if you're chatting, if 2 people are chatting, user 1 and user 2 is chatting, and user 1 sends a message to user 2. That message adds to the list of messages so far sent. Just like in your WhatsApp message, user 2 sends a message back, it adds to the list of the messages too. So that list of messages we could use on child added to monitor when a new child has been added. Then we can perform a function. Okay, so there's on child changed. Assuming someone edits their profile and you just want to monitor when the child has changed, when there is an edit. Okay, there's on child removed, when someone deletes something, a node from the content path, and there's on child moved, when something is rearranged. We could just rearrange, take this guy up here, that's on child moved. Otherwise, you could just use on value to monitor everything once and for all. Okay, so when there's on child moved, we can be able to run a function to say if this guy edits their data on the database, this is what you do: show a pop-up box, or do this, or go to this other table and update it. You understand? So back to our code, that's just what we did here. We're just saying on value, it should be like this on a normal day. Okay, but this will retrieve an array that we have to loop through, and we don't want to use a loop since it's just a user profile. When you're just retrieving something like a user profile, we just need access to this guy, and since we already know the key names, we don't need it to be in a loop. If it's in a kind of array that we need to use a loop, then we have to use for each of these other guys, then we start looping. Okay, it doesn't make sense. The only time you should use that is when you want to retrieve list of users like this, or list of posts. You know, these things are random names that you don't know. You don't know this beforehand, so you just have to loop through it. But when you know the values like this, you don't use the loop. So we just need a snapshot of this guy once and for all. That's why we're using once, and it's only a value that uses once. Okay, so this is now user service. So we'll have to go to user details .typescript and call this user service. Remember, it accepts one parameter, so we go to user details, and we are using the function display user. I just named mine display user. You could name yours anything. This function accepts one parameter, and what it does is we declared user service, and that means, remember that in the past tutorials what we did was just import the user service this guy here. We imported it, and that's the line here. Then we declared it as a providers, as a provider. Then we declare the variable in our constructor, and then on this function, what we are doing here is to say, go to our user service provider and access this method called view user. Remember this method, and inside, remember this method accepts one parameter. So we're saying accept view user, one parameter, and we're going to pass this parameter later on. And they said, then once we have that, we declare a variable. You could call yours anything. I just called mine snapshots. We're saying once that happens, we now have changes. We can now do stuff here. So what we want to do is to take snapshot.val. This is so useless. Remove this. It's not necessary. So what we're now, everything that is here from email name, photo, username has automatically been saved in snapshot.val. You know, we declared snapshot.val, okay? Then if you want to access the key, if you want to access this guy, you know, this guy is like a level above these other guys. If you want to access this key, and it's randomly generated by Firebase, so you don't know it, but if you want to use it in case, you could just, it's obtainable here in your snapshot key. So if you want to use it, it's here. That's where they save the snapshot key. The rest is on snapshot val with this open and close brackets, okay? Then we want to access a photo. What we do is we have a photo here. So you just name the key name here, then automatically the value will be there. So the key name is photo. The other thing we want to access is the username. So if we come here, we say username, snapshot.val, username, we have access to this guy. And then the next thing we want to check out is that's just all we need for now, but in your case you may need to access a lot of email, name. So if you want to access something like name, what you will do is, this is name dot first. So if you wanted to access the first name, we'll just do dot name dot first. Okay, so the dots are the separators. So there we are. Now about these other guys, first of all, if you want to use a variable like this, you have to declare it first. This is TypeScript. So we declared it at the top of our constructor, above our constructor. I just called it user photo URL. You can call yours anything of the type any. And we declared user display name. You could call yours anything. So right inside our method here, we could use it. And remember, the word this, or the keyword this, has a different scope inside. Between here and here, this does not work. It has a different scope. So we have to find a way to use it too, or to make a reference to this guy here. So what we'll do is to, outside this function, we will just assign another variable to it. So I called mine that. You could just call yours that is, or you could call yours model f. So which means any place you should have used this inside this variable, inside this function, you just use w2f. Okay. So that's it. But I used that. You could use anything, and that's it. Which means once we have any variable in Ionic that is of this scope that we can access with this, then we can have access to it in our HTML page. Now we have downloaded the data and we have it in this variable. Let's go and use it in our HTML page. So we'll just have this variable, we'll copy it. Remember, this variable contains the URL to the photo. So if we go to our HTML page, remember in the past 2-3 tutorials, we designed the profile page and then we imported an image, a dummy image, but then we've removed the URL and actually put user photo. So if you want to have access to user photo that is available in your TypeScript file, what you will do is to open bracket, close bracket, double bracelets, then you paste the variable name. Same thing with that of the username. As you can see, the rest I manually typed them out. Okay, all these other 24 years old, this blah blah blah, I manually typed them out. Okay, so that pretty much settles it. But this is real time, which means if there is any page, if we had used on, if there's any change in our database, since this is real time, Firebase is real time, if there's any change at all, it will reflect immediately. So if this guy by any means changes their picture, automatically it will reflect. Okay, and that's it. So let's quickly check back at our page and see what happened. So there it is, and if we click on profile page, it takes a second, and there we have it, our user picture. So one last thing, what if this user doesn't have a picture? What do we do? How do we put an alternative picture in case something went to Firebase and couldn't retrieve a value, and we need to fit in a default value? So that's a good question, because it's a problem that many people have. So let's just say that a key doesn't exist for this user. As you can see, let me show you. Not all the users have equal keys. For instance, this guy has only email, because maybe they registered with their password only, with their email and password only. So we save the password in oath, and then we're using the email here. It doesn't have a name, it doesn't have a photo, no username. And in your code, you're actually calling this the whole of this. So instead of running into error when you try to make a reference to photo for this guy, what you will do is, how you handle that is, one easy way for me though is, for instance, we here user display name, we're making reference to username which exists for this user, but we can say, let's just say we are making reference to sister. We want to reference the user's sister, or let's just say user's job role. Okay, and we're just saying if the user job role doesn't exist, we can just say not unemployed. Okay, due to recession. So assuming we make a reference to this guy is undefined, which means this job doesn't exist for this particular call we made, it should have a default value. So we're saying that's just what we're saying here. And of course, we know that job doesn't exist as a key anywhere in our database. So let's check our app to see it's refreshing. After refreshing, we can see what will happen. There it is. So we can click on this and get a user profile, and since there is no job unemployed due to recession. So thank you very much. My name is Dave, partner, and don't forget that we have I have created a hackathon starter, so which means anytime you want to build an app that involves user registration and a user having a profile, default template for you to start up with, I've built it, and it's obtainable at github.com/daveozalo/ionic2-firebase-hackathon starter. So if you're in a hackathon and you needed to build an app, and once you get this up, once you download this or clone this repository, you'll be able to kick off right straight into your hackathon. Okay, so thank you very much. Don't forget to star it when you get there, and don't forget to send a PR if you need anything improved. So thank you very much. See you in the next video tutorial.